Hey, this is Andy with RS Xperience, and in today's video I'm going to be speaking with Jamie Bopp of Dundon Motorsports. About a year ago I did an interview with Jamie and Charles Dundon. We'll put a link in the description below to that video, and today we're doing a follow-up to discuss products and the new Porsche GT models. Hey, I'm Andy, a high-performance car enthusiast with a passion for well-engineered automobiles. I love to drive mountain roads with like-minded enthusiasts, along with sharing driving tips and techniques in my Porsche GT3 RS and BMW M2 CS. I was going back through my videos, and it was actually, I think it was like September of 2020. It doesn't feel that long ago, but
I know. It gets very compressed.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, it's been a year, a little over a year actually, since we last spoke. And I know you guys have been up to a lot, and I'll try to be specific here in my questions. I only have a few. So I guess the first one, the one that's near and dear to me, and if you're willing to discuss, maybe also folks who follow you on social media. So you've got a 992 GT3 coming.
I do. It is getting picked up in Chicago on Saturday.
Okay, so that's where it was purchased then, from a Chicago dealer?
Yeah, it was purchased in Chicago. The original plan. So when we ordered that car back in February, that was supposed to be delivered end of August timeframe was kind of the gist of what they told me. And it got here with Sean Grower's car and sat in the port of Baltimore for a month, waiting for TPMS service so that the car was legal to drive on highways. Now, what's funny is the service didn't actually occur in port. They're just waiting for the parts to get to the dealers. So the car ended up at the dealer and got turned around really quick. But by then it was the beginning of October. I'm not going to, my original plan was, and the car, I had put wheels in motion to have PPF on the car, have it all detailed, put the lab rat graphics on it so that it's orange and it's got all the orange bits and baubles and stuff on it. Found a detailer there that would do it, luminescence detail. And I was going to drive it home.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah,
break it all home, Chicago to Seattle.
Yeah, it's broken in
through Montana, all the rest would have been great.
Beautiful. Except
that doing that in October through the northern climbs on semi track tires, it's got the Goodyears that come on it now. And I was like, yeah, this isn't going to go well. Even if it goes well, it's not going to go well because I'm too busy now. And that all got the kibosh. Luckily, with how the detailing's going, it's been slow, like most things. Originally, there was a chance for the car to get picked up last Friday, which I would probably have it by now. But detailer wasn't ready. He was getting married. Long story short, car's going to be finished up on Saturday, and I will finally see it. And I have lots and lots of people ask me, hey, can I buy an exhaust? Not yet. I don't sell stuff that we haven't tested and I haven't personally experienced. So
that was going to kind of be my next question. So just talking about the car. So the one lab rat, what was it, 997.1 or .2 RS that was in the black and orange?
So that was a 991.2.
Okay.
RS was the lab rat. Yeah.
So this one's going to get a similar graphics package on that car.
That's right.
Now, what wheel did you go with? The neodyme or the gold wheels?
I did, but I've got orange mags here that I'm going to.
Nice.
As best I can tell, they will fit, but you can't tell until you get them on the car all the time.
Oh, no.
So the numbers say they'll fit. We'll see if they fit once we get them on the car. So I still got the orange mags from the lab rat.
Cool. So when you configured this car and you got the opportunity to configure, what's your build? What kind of build did you do on this car?
Track rat.
Just pure, yeah, just no frills.
I'll say track rat plus. So it's not a complete stripper. So I did the high-end lighting. I have a thing for headlights. So it's got, I forget what the Porsche gobbledygook name for them all is. I'm not that much of a like super nerd about all the options, but
Yeah, a lighting connoisseur.
yeah. I was able to get a CXX option on the car, which I was pretty happy about. I got orange cross stitching in the interior.
Oh, nice.
So that'll match. It's very subtle on the inside, but it'll match all the kind of orange on the outside that we're going to have, like the Lab Rat was.
Yeah, because otherwise you're like, okay, what do I go with? Do I do silver,
Silver, blue, or
right,
whatever.
with the orange, like, and it's like, yeah, I get it.
Silver is what it would have been. It's black with a carbon roof. So I did all the carbon stuff. Steel brakes, because the brakes are probably going to come off, and we'll put PFCs on it.
Right. Yeah.
Front axle lift, because this car will be getting a full aero treatment from us, including functional carbon splitter and all the rest. So we're diving deep on all the carbon goodies for this car. There's a lot of plastic on the 992 GT3, and
yeah, that front bumper, that front fascia and stuff like that.
Yeah, it actually, to me, the Touring looks better because it's painted. It doesn't have that jarring, like,
yeah, there is a drop off there. You know, when I've seen all the pictures and whatnot and video of the car, and actually saw a shark blue one here at the dealer.
Yep.
You know, the plastic to me is well, you know, at least for me and my RS, the side air intakes are like peppered and like sandblasted like crazy. Right. And I imagine that whole front, at least on the plastic, at least on the, I guess the PPF on a painted surface, you can give it some protection, right? And then just change out that PPF. But I don't
plastic know. Likely is not very expensive. Most of the plastic parts, you know, air guides, you know, these kinds of things from Porsche, because they're all injection molded. They're not.
That's true. That front splitter lip is like $300, $350.
Right. Right. I mean, they're not, you know, as far as Porsche points go, you know, $1,000 being a point, you're not even to a full point yet. So you're okay.
Yeah. So I guess it's because I think that will happen on there. I did notice too that they have, you know, the screening along the front, but there's the two end sides where there's no screen and it goes back to a radiator, but it also has an opening that comes forward again. So I don't know if the airflow will flow through. So if something gets in there, like leaves and whatnot, if they'll kind of blow themselves out. Because, you know, the .2 RS, I mean, that stuff gets in
just get clogged.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Most all GT cars up until the ones that have a bypass, right? Like that, you know, a side vent will build up.
So you talked a little bit about the full aero treatment on this car that you'll do.
So we're going to do the full meal deal on the 992. So it's going to get MCS already has a suspension that they started in Germany. So that's already been tested at the Nürburgring. So that's exciting. We're going to put that on the car, the front axle lift pucks that are necessary so that you can continue to have front axle lift with an aftermarket motorsports based suspension.
So let's touch base on that. So this suspension, what all does that involve? This, would you say MS?
MCS, motion control suspension. They're actually close to you. They're in Atlanta.
Okay.
So that's where they're based out of. MCS has got a combined over 50 years designing motorsports dampers. We partnered a couple years ago, mainly because we knew that these are street going track cars. And so if you ignore front axle lift on these cars, you have a really small subset of guys that are actually going to pull the trigger on improving their dampers on the car. So MCS was willing to partner with us to design both pneumatic for the 2014 to 2018 GT3s and hydraulic for the 2019 3RS and 2RS, and now the 992 GT3
Okay.
is hydraulic as well. So what ends up happening is, like most car manufacturers, unless they are Multimatic, for instance, and they build 4 GTs or Koenigsegg, there are going to be compromises, right? There's going to be compromises. And
Sure.
the compromises in the dampers are, as they softened the GT cars over the years to make them more viable by an older clientele that
They
wants
definitely
less.
opened up the market, no doubt.
Absolutely. So you drive a 996 GT3 and then hop in a 991.2 GT3 and you feel like you're in a Cadillac by comparison, right?
Right.
So the couple things that predicated a swift movement for guys that track their cars or mountain drive your cars, like you do. Seth Thomas, who you know yep. Seth, he had his car and was getting some, he drives at Road Atlanta all the time. When the car was stock, had stock suspension on it, he was ending up with some rubbing in the rear on the outside. So what's that? Road Atlanta, that'd be driver side rear for the outside of the circuit. So the one that's taken a lot of the cornering load. He's like, well, that's really weird. The car isn't overly low. So they started looking into it. And when they took the tire off, they noticed that the damper was actually weeping oil. The stock damper was weeping oil. Took it in and didn't know these cars were English, but I guess there's a weepage spec now for leaking dampers. Oh, that's not leaking bad enough yet. We're not going to warranty that. Off you go. Okay, hold on. So that means that there have definitely been some compromises in the stock dampers. Seth was not alone. We heard anecdotes from a few other guys that had experienced something similar. A leaking damper cannot maintain pressure, period. Right? The oil's coming out. That means the pressure is coming out. That means that it's not operating as it should. So we put the MCS on the cars, put three-way adjustable dampers. Three-way adjustable dampers are relatively straightforward for what we'll call normal people, not, race engineers or suspension guys, to figure out. There's low speed and high speed compression, and then there's rebound. Rebound at that point would be considered a low speed rebound adjustment. Rebound is when the car is moving away from the tire. And what you're trying to do is control the rate at which it moves away. Compression is the opposite,
right? Is
when the car is moving towards the tire or towards the ground, and you're trying to control the rate at which the car is moving towards the ground. The thing that you have to keep in mind is the car is an X seesaw through its center of gravity. So what happens up here happens back here.
In the back, okay.
Right? So there's some things that you can control, like braking. You would think, on the track, high-speed braking, car wants to nose down.
Right.
There's two ways we can control that. One, I can control the rate the rear is rising by increasing the rebound on the rear to kind of hold it down.
Keep it flatter. Yep.
Right. Keep it flatter. Or I can increase the low speed compression on the front of the car.
Okay.
So that as the car is coming in, I have more push. The damper's trying to slow the rate at which the car is coming in.
It's not slamming down.
So it's not slamming down.
Right. Okay.
So there's been a lot of hubbub about the electronic PASM and some of the things that can be used to control the PASM and all of this. And that's all great. But if the shock is not capable of actually controlling or having the power to control that corner,
minimize what you can do.
Exactly. Then you need to be playing in a range that's this big, and you're monkeying around in a range that's this big.
So does this mean, I'm trying to listen to what you're saying. Does that mean then that something like the DSC controller doesn't have a play in this MCS suspension setup?
The MCS is not electronically valved. So that's
Got it.
correct.
Okay,
That's
got
correct.
it.
The DSC controller is for the stock suspension. And
Right.
we've seen guys have a progression from stock to DSC to some motorsports damper, right? There's a number of them out there. KW makes a good product if you can get a hold of it. And if you can find somebody to tune it for you. Because KW
This
will not give you
MCS.
the
So,
assistance.
so like if someone were to purchase, from what it sounds like, MCS through you,
Yep.
through Dundon, and I say, hey, this is my car, what I have, I don't know if there's a setup, is there any prep work things you do?
Absolutely. So we
where
give
you
you the alignment
driving?
set it. We ask you how you're going to drive the car so that we can select the right springs for it, because we ask you what track you're going to use, what tires you're going to use. There's a whole slew of if-then loops, if you will.
Yeah, the suspension is interesting because, like on the RS, I don't need any more power, right? I mean, power isn't what I need. Some of the torque I picked up when I put the Dundon catted headers, your race catted headers on the car and the loud muffler. That's great, right? A little bit of torque coming out of the turns, but as I think more about the handling of the car, like in some of the areas, right, where some of those roads, some are smooth, some are not so smooth,
Right.
And these cars have a tendency, I'm driving, I'm like
bouncing all over the place, right?
like I'm just like hopping all over the place.
Right. The MCS three-way is probably a good play for you. Even Seth was saying, come in corner exit. He was saying he could get on throttle a lot earlier because the car had a lot more rear grip with the MCS, because the tires are staying in contact with the ground, which is the point of the suspension, right?
So I'm just going to pick on this subject here with the suspension for another minute. So, so the components were, I hear spring, I'm guessing a shock. Then I know there's things like toe links, toe rods and stuff that maybe give you some more adjustability. Is that something that's part of this package, or you don't
can
need
be? Can be. So again, it's a conversation, right? It's a conversation.
Got it. Got it.
What is your car optioned as? So for example, if we want to stay in 991.2 GT3 RS or GT2 RS land, is your car a YSOC car or is it not a YSOC car? YSOC cars come with all of the suspension joints except for one, which is the rear steering joint. They're all monoballed or rose jointed or whatever you might want to call it. It's a solid spherical bearing that allows no play.
Okay.
As opposed to a rubber bushing that has some give in the suspension. Rubber bushings, great for Cadillacs, great for, soccer mom SUV, very quiet, very comfortable, no NVH, yada, yada, yada. Rose joints, race cars.
Got it.
You don't rose joint the car and then go, oh my God, there's a rattle. Yeah, brother, race car. Horses for courses here. You want no rattle car, go drive a Cadillac. You can't have both.
Yeah, I know. I'll hear that sometimes or read that on some of the forums. There's, obviously with the 992, there's a lot of new folks to the GT world. And I think you see some of those folks are holding out for the touring. Now, some of that is just they prefer to be a little more subtle without the wing.
Yeah. They don't want the wing, all that good stuff, and good for them. To me, a GT car isn't a GT car without a wing. So
for me, it needs to have the wing.
A lot of guys will come to me and say, hey, what should my alignment be? Well, that's kind of a moving target. That's like saying, what kind of food should you eat? In a lot of ways, right? And the reason that I say it that way is an alignment is optimized. I hear it a lot. What's the best alignment for this car? Right? I want -3 camber and -2.5. Where did you hear those numbers? Why do you think you need that much? What's the thought process here? The way that you come to these things is by measuring the car. You go out to the racetrack, you measure the tire temperatures. If the tire temperatures are not what you would want them to be, if the inside is still very hot and the outside's very cold, then you probably have too much camber, or you're not driving the car hard enough. You're not getting it to lean over on the tire and get the entire contact patch hot. So there's some general guidance that we give to folks, right? You should be around here. Like the Lab Rat, we never ran more than 2.8 in the front. Negative 2.8 was all we ever ran, and we didn't need to. It's a combination of it being a Y-sock car, so it's rose jointed, so all the suspension bushings aren't flexing more, and you need more static camber in the car. It's a combination of having a stiff, rigid wheel. The magnesium wheels are fantastic in that regard. They don't bend under load like a number of other wheels will. So if the wheel is not bending, then you don't need as much static camber when you're in a dynamic situation and the car is actually trying to push and the wheel wants to bend under, right? It wants to kind of do this as opposed to staying like this.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of forces at play. And to your point, how you drive the car. Like when I did the RS, I think I'm just a little bit more than stock. And then I go around the track I go to and I'm like, oh, it feels good, for what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I think I'm a -1.7 or -2, like square. I ended up going square.
Yeah.
And it rides.
Good for street driving, honestly, because you're
rides.
very rarely loading the car up. Good for highway wear, keeps the car from tram lining, wanting to go all over the place.
Yeah, I got like this last set of Cup 2s, I actually got 10,000 miles on those tires.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing, right? It's tow has a consideration to that. If you really tow the front out and the rear in, then you're going to get edge wear, right? But the car will be really, really super responsive, autocross style, right? It'll be super wanting to turn and point and all these kinds of things, which is great, but they're always trade-offs. So, and this is why we have the conversation with folks. And honestly, it's one of the focuses that we've got from our marketing now through the beginning of next year is to really help people to be that concierge, to be that sommelier, to help people not, I see it on Facebook all the time. What's the best exhaust? What's the best food, brother? I mean, what do you want? What do you like? What are you using the car for?
That's it. It's so personal. And like you said, what do you like? What do you want out of it? Like you said, if you just want noise, there's a lot of stuff out there, these, bypasses, over axle things that you can do, and you can get if you want
you want crazy noise, you can do a crack pipe. That's crazy noise. You can do full on RSR, like can't ears bleeding.
Please subscribe to this channel if you are passionate about performance cars, want to better your driving skills, want to learn about new cars from an unbiased reviewer, are interested in car modifications and gear.